Welcome to Unlocking Your Truth, another podcast by Dr. Lesley Phillips.
Tonight's topic is something that we haven't covered before. If you're a regular listener, you might know I have a passion for teaching people how to activate and open their intuitive abilities. And so I like exploring the different ways that we can be intuitive. And I realize that there's one way that we haven't covered so far, and that is abstract intuition. And so, have you ever seen the film Rain Man? It's a bit of an old film now. It's got Tom Cruise in it and Dustin Hoffman. And there's a scene in that film where Tom Cruise, who they're brothers basically, and Tom Cruise is the responsible brother that looks after Dustin Hoffman, who perhaps has Asperger's or a form of autism or something like that. Anyway, there's a scene in the movie where Tom Cruise drops a box of matches on the floor, and the matches just fall randomly in a pile, and Dustin Hoffman immediately says, I don't know, 286 or something, right? And he knows the exact number of matches that fell on the floor in an instant. That's abstract intuition. It's knowing the answer to something, the solution to something, instantaneously, without needing to do a calculation. And, you know, I like to say everybody is intuitive and everyone has intuitive abilities, and that's true, they do. In my experience, probably about 25% of the people that I see are strong in this abstract intuition. So it's not something that some of the abilities are very, very common, like clairsentience, which is intuitive feeling, sensing through the emotions, being an empath. That's very common. Everyone to some degree is expressing that. And the same with your knowingness or your claircognizance. That's also a very, very common one, I find. This abstract intuition, not everybody seems to have it or be demonstrating it. But anyway, that's what we're going to do tonight, and you can listen in and decide whether this is an intuitive ability that you believe that you have. So let me start by giving you another example of somebody who had this abstract intuition. So I'm a fan, or I'm very interested in, Nikola Tesla. You may have heard of Nikola Tesla. He was a scientist back in I think it's the late 1800s. And he made many amazing discoveries. And he's documented to have had what they labeled as a photographic memory, because he could memorize entire books. He could read them once and he would have it memorized. And he could memorize images. He stockpiled visions of future inventions that he was going to make. And he had the ability to visualize things in 3 dimensions and move them around in his mind before he ever created anything in physical reality. In fact, he was able to judge the dimensions of an object to 1/100th of an inch in his mind and perform difficult computations in his head. In fact, he had what he called his mind laboratory, and when he got an idea for a new machine or invention that he wanted to make, he would set up experiments in his mind. He would set it up like he would set it up in the lab and leave it running. Turn it on and leave it running, and then to see how it would come out, to see how it would work. And that technique was so well developed, and the results were so incredibly accurate, that whenever he built a prototype after going through that process in his mind lab, invariably they would work very well. So he was just amazing, and this is an example, in my opinion, of this ability called abstract intuition. And in fact, it was so pronounced in Tesla that when he was a child, he had difficulty telling the difference between the visions that he was having, because imaginary objects, he would just he could jumble them around, he could rearrange them in his mind, and he sometimes had difficulty deciding whether something was real or a projection of his imagination. So that's Nikola Tesla. And I also believe that Albert Einstein and, many of the famous people who have led us forward in new ideas and helped us create significant changes in technology and the way that we do things are often people who have this abstract intuition. So it's very common in inventors. It's actually common in musicians and artists and mathematicians as well. So let's find out if this could be an ability that you might have. Well, think back to when you were at school. And especially in maths, for example. This is a really common thing with a child who has abstract intuition. And these are often the kids with ADHD. They're completely bored in school. And they might wrongly be accused by their teachers of cheating, especially in mathematics. So for an example would be the teacher puts a quadratic equation or some complicated formula to be worked out on the blackboard, and someone with abstract intuition, just like in that Rain Man example I gave you, might instantly know what the answer is, write it down, and and then get on with imagining something more interesting. But to the teacher, it looks like they cheated because they haven't done any calculations. There's no notes on the page. All there is the answer. It looks like they must have copied the answer from the person not next to them. So if you had any experiences like that when you were a kid, well, it could be that you have this ability that I'm calling abstract intuition. So if you were branded as being different by your teachers at school, or being a cheat, but you weren't cheating and you couldn't understand why you were being accused of it, this might be the answer. And also, if you've got an uncanny knack for numbers, that can also be a clue that you have this ability. I had one person who came to me for a session, and I did my psychic ability blueprint, which looks at somebody's entire profile of intuitive abilities, and they came out really strongly. And this was somebody who was an investment banker, and he said, yes, I just have to pick up a financial statement, and the numbers instantly just rearrange themselves. They jump off the page, they rearrange themselves, and I instantly understand all of it. He had abstract intuition. Spatial relations and geometry may be second nature to you. So I had a lady come to me who she was a furniture maker, a cabinet maker, and she also had this abstract intuition. And the way that she was applying it in her life was in making furniture. I find a lot of people who are architects who enjoy renovating houses or sculpting and building things also have this ability. If you are attracted to abstract, surreal or symbolic art, if that has deep meaning for you, then that might also be a sign of your abstract intuition. And if you love formulae, mathematics, equations, and other abstract representations of ideas, well, that also could be a clue. So great mathematicians have abstract intuition. And I tend to think that There's probably a disproportionate number of people who are scientists as well, who have this ability. Or if you can just sort of see the underlying patterns and frequencies in nature. Or if you've been labelled as being autistic or having Asperger's or ADHD, or if you have a child like that, then you may find that part of what's going on in this person is they have abstract intuition. And child prodigies, those kids that at 2, 3, 4 years old are amazing musicians. Musical notes are like mathematics, they're like mathematical formulae. And so somebody who can just really hook in to music like that, listen to a symphony and then replicate it the first time they've heard it, and then that is abstract intuition. And I think that, I might have this wrong, but I think that Mozart was a child prodigy, and I think they said that about him, that he could listen to a piece of music once, and that's all he needed to be able to replicate it completely accurately from start to finish. And I believe he also wrote entire symphonies in his head, just like Tesla did with his inventions. So, have you ever been to the fairground and they've got that competition that they do where they've got jelly beans in a jar? If you've ever won a competition like that, that might be a sign that you're a bit like Rain Man. So, these are all examples of what it's like to have abstract intuition. You know, if you love reading, playing and composing music and that comes easily to you, if you can easily remember strings of numbers and you love mathematics and you love formulae, even if you could read and speak at an early age, that could be a sign of having abstract intuition. Alright, so people with abstract intuition are those who have an affinity for music, numbers, formulae, spatial relations. And, you know, they just have this uncanny knack with these things that other people tend not to have. That's all a sign of abstract intuition. And like I said, I don't find that this is one of the most common things, but I love it when I meet somebody that has this, because they're so creative. They're the out of the box thinkers. They can see the world in a different way. They can imagine the world in a different way. They're the inventors and the creators. And so some of the challenges, if you have this ability, is that you can get labelled when you're at school as being different. You know, you can be, like I said, you can be labelled as having one of these, you know, autism, Asperger's, ADHD. You know, maybe they'll even put you on some drugs to help you focus your attention. I had another a client who had this, and this person was a sculptor, and they collected junk, basically. They collected everything they saw. They could see what it could become. They could see how they could incorporate this into a magical, amazing sculpture. And so their house was just full of stuff. But the problem was they never followed through. And then when they wanted to follow through, they couldn't find the things that they wanted to create the thing that they wanted to create. So this person is sort of like having all of these ideas simultaneously and not being able to really focus on one thing. And in fact, this person was sort of wanted this to be their last incarnation on this planet, because they so didn't like having to focus on one thing at a time, and wanted to be in a spiritual reality where they could just have multiple things. But that's one of the reasons why they'll put kids on drugs that are like this, because they want to focus their brain more narrowly. The opposite of that is being labelled as being gifted. having an amazing ability at a young child, as a young child, being a child prodigy, whether it's in music, whether it's in mathematics, whether it's in art, all of those things can be being able to. There are some amazing child prodigy artists. There's one called, I think her name's Ariane or Ariadne. I think it's Ariane, and she started painting when she was 2, 3, and the paintings that there's a website that you can look up, and there's the paintings that she's done every age as she's matured, and she's painting masterpieces at the age of 4, 5 or 6. So she's got sort of like a mastery over, being able to see and represent ideas. And I gave the example of Mozart as somebody who could do that with music, and Tesla, who could do that with inventions, and that client I had who could do it with numbers. So being labelled as gifted, different or gifted, it's still setting you apart from everybody else. And sometimes, there's a lot of pressure on kids when they are labelled as gifted or different. Another sign is that just a challenge of it is being easily bored, because it's like most people are not on the same level as you, and they can't operate in the same way that you do, and so the things that interest them can feel very boring, and just being misunderstood or being labelled as mentally abnormal. But if you can overcome those challenges, like I said, these are the people that bring beautiful symphonies and beautiful artwork and make amazing inventions. So if you can overcome those challenges, then these are the people that can make some of the greatest contributions. And so if you think that you might have abstract intuition, I would love you to call into the show and share your stories of how you use it, as how it plays out in your life. You can call 604-504-7441, extension 4142, or you can write to us at info@drlesleyphillips.com. So Corey's taking the phone calls and the emails. And it's interesting, because when you think about it, symbols, I think I've said this before on the show, symbols and equations can contain so much more information than language. If you take an apple. If I say the word apple, it's like a single dimension apple. But if I created the symbol of an apple, that conveys so much more information. Is it red? Is it green? Is there a bite taken out of it? Is there a worm burrowing into it? Is it bitten down to the core? Is it being held by a witch? Is one side of it poisonous? So much more information. And then if I was to write an equation that would result in creating the structure of an apple, that would contain even more information. And so language is a very simple and low form of communication. Symbols and mathematical equations are a much higher form of communication. And actually, we do not require the intellectual mind to understand them. We try to fathom them with our intellectual minds, and we struggle and we make it hard and really full of effort. Oh, I remember maths when I was at school. I found it easy until I was 16, and I was in an all-girls school when I was 16, and then I went between 16 and 18. They mixed us up with the boys, and then I found it really difficult for some reason. I'm not sure if it was that the teacher was the boys' school teacher, and maybe they were presenting it in a different way than, because all the girls did badly at that point, or whether we were just distracted by the guys. I'm not sure. Anyway, I go off on a tangent. So that's it. Tonight's theme is abstract intuition. Give us a call. Tell us your stories about yourself or people you know that have this ability. And the other thing that's going to happen after a short break is the phone lines will open and you can call in with a question. So as well, every week on the show we do this theme topic, but then for the final 40 minutes of the show, it's really open to any topics. You can phone and talk about abstract intuition, but you could also, if you are going through some challenges in your life, you know, whether it's in a relationship or a career or money or health or life purpose, or you've had some interesting spiritual experiences that you want to share and ask me about, you can phone up and ask about any of these things. If you listen to the show regularly, you'll know I'm a professional intuitive, so I do intuitive readings. I do it by altering my state of consciousness so that I can tune into subtle energies. I don't use any magical artifacts. It's a process that I rearrange my energy field in a specific way, and that allows me to tune into anyone, anytime, any place, anywhere, and read information. And actually I am reading symbols most of the time, or I'm seeing pictures. I'm getting information in multiple ways.
Hello, Dr. Lesley.
Hi.
Hi. A great show. I'm abstract intuition is one of the things, the gifts that I have. Geometry, for instance, like in high school, I wasn't doing very well in the other subjects, but geometry I didn't even have to look at. I just knew how to work with it. I love three-dimensional, two-dimensional puzzles, and I just see things in very interesting ways. It's a lot of fun.
So you can manipulate them, can you? Sort of in your mind.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I actually do geometry in my mind, like, you know, working with triangles and stuff like just for fun. I had a book I read many years ago called The Id, and it was about a gentleman who turned the corner and he found himself in a different universe altogether, a different reality. And this reality, everybody in that reality were geometrical figures. They were all just slightly different, and he learned a lot about it. So that book really appealed to me, and I guess now I know why, because of...
Well, it's interesting you should say that, because, you know, one of the things I do is I do past life readings. And occasionally I get to see experiences that lives that people have lived in other realities. And I would just validate that there are realities like that.
Oh, yeah. Well, the thing is, I read that book when I was, maybe 19, 20 years old, and since then I actually physically tried to turn that corner myself many, many times, and I won't tell you whether I succeeded or not, but we can go there another time. But yeah, there's I love abstract. It's like houses and things, as you know. I mean, I can walk into a house and tell you how it's laid out and physically what would be the best ideal and how to put things together and things that I've never thought about putting together. I can just figure it out. They're like puzzles, three-dimensional puzzles, two-dimensional puzzles. Yeah, one-dimensional puzzles, well, they don't exist. Anyway, I have a question for you.
Great.
About me. And this question's from Lisa. And Lisa says, or asks, I've been in a relationship, it's a little bit of a long question. I've been in a relationship for many years with unique circumstances attached to it. We are getting ready for a move in the right direction for the next step in our lives together. But we are both very scared that things won't work out for us. I guess my question is this next step the right one, or are there going to be more obstacles that we will have to overcome? I can tell you, Lisa, that there's always obstacles. Anyway, there you go.
Okay, well, thank you for writing to us, Lisa, and I will take a look. And I'm just going to do my thing of going into a trance state. And then I'm going to tune in to Lisa and the person that she's talking about, and we'll take a look at their relationship. One of the things that I'm seeing is that because this relationship has been unattainable isn't the right word, but I can't think of it. For so many years it's been set up in a certain way. It looks like you've both come to believe that that's the way that it has to be. And it looks like you've both come to believe that it's hard for you to believe that it can change, let's put it that way. And of course, I'm always saying on this show that you create your reality through your beliefs. And that is the challenge for both of you. The challenge for both of you is to allow yourself to have what you want. Allow yourself to believe that you can have this. And I'm seeing that it's almost like, and you didn't tell us the circumstances around why you've not been able to be together the way that you want to, but it looks like that there's other circumstances with respect to other people and so on. And so it looks to me like you've kind of built this private world that the two of you go into together. It's like this secret private world. It's like almost like a dream world. And so that's the other thing that I was seeing is it's not very grounded. It's like this alternate place that you both escape to together. And so I'm seeing it is a huge shift for you and this person to take the next step. And I'm seeing that why it's so scary for you, because neither of you have had to commit. It's been this sort of dream thing, this not quite real thing, and now it's more of a commitment. And there's also a fear around hurting other people as well that I'm seeing. And so, is it the right decision or the wrong decision? I won't tell you that, because there's no such thing as a right decision or a wrong decision. There's just the decision that you make. So whatever decision that you make, it is your decision, and you live with the creation that comes from the decision that you make. And whether it turns out well or not well, at the end of the day, it is you that has created that circumstance. And so always work on your beliefs and work on what it is that what it is that you ultimately want. Is it a happy, fulfilling, committed, out in the open relationship? And if it is, then work on everything within your being that doubts that you can have that. And the universe, if you can do that, the universe will deliver. Whether it's with this person or another person, the universe will deliver it. Okay, well, I hope that helps you, Lisa. I'm going to see if Corey has another question for us, either by email or waiting on the phone. Hello? Oh. We didn't get connected for some reason. Hello, Corey. Do you have another question?
Oh, there's always lots of questions for you, Dr. Lesley. People love emailing in questions. I don't know why they don't call in. I had a lady the other day who said she did call in, but she didn't want to speak.
I know, that was funny, wasn't it? She called in, but she still didn't want to speak.
Yeah, it was very interesting. Yeah. I guess people are shy about their personal businesses, but anyway, talk about abstract intuition. You're going to need some for this question from Simone. And Simone wants to know, she's got a 6-word question: where do I go from here?
That's so funny. And listeners, some people, Simone isn't doing this, but it just makes me think of something. Some people like to test psychics, right? By giving them as little information as possible. But the hilarious thing is, it's like the more information that you can give, the more information you'll actually get back. But anyway, we'll look at Simone's question, and she hasn't told us where she is now or where she thinks she is now, but she wants to know where does she go from there. So I'm going to just tune in and see what comes up. So when I look at you, Simone, I'm seeing, it looks like you're in this really big healing space. Looks like you've had some challenges in your life, partly emotional, and it just looks like a lot of things have broken down in your world. A lot of things have crumbled away. And it's like some of them on purpose because you didn't want them anymore. And some of them kind of happened while everything else was crumbling and shocked you a little bit. And it looks like so much was changing so rapidly that you got scared and you kind of stopped this process. And it's almost like I see that there was like this huge amount of stuff in your life that you wanted to let go of. And it's like if you imagine it as a floor that you were standing on and made of floor tiles, and you've broken down every single floor tile except for the last one. And it's like you got scared and you stopped the process, and now you're balancing on this one floor tile suspended in mid-air, going, where do I go from here? Because I can't, there's no other floor tiles to stand on. And where do you go from here? You let go of the final floor tile. You take a leap of faith that you, your higher self, your higher being, your soul, knows exactly what it's doing. It's the body that's feeling afraid. So it's a case of developing faith and trust in the divine plan that you have for yourself. And let me see what else. And I'm seeing that part of it's been about putting yourself first. It looks like part of what you were letting go of was a lot of people who were very controlling and invasive and controlling your life to some degree. And you've said, no, I want my freedom from this. And you wanted it so much, you created it. And just at the very last piece, got afraid. And so just keep going. Just let it all go. And have faith that the universe will catch you. One of the things that I always find helps in circumstances like this is, if you have an affinity for a particular ascended master or higher being, like an angel, like the angel Gabriel or the angel Michael, or even Jesus, or whoever you have an affinity for, ask them for help. Ask them for help. Ask them to see you through. They'll always listen to you, and they always will help you. Because listeners, she's going through a really huge transformation here, and I've been through transformations like that myself. And you can let so much go from your life that it's almost like, I don't know who I am anymore. All the old labels that I had on myself are gone. Everything I used to have as a touchstone is gone. The people I related with are gone. Who am I? right now? I don't know. And where am I going? I equally don't know. But it's okay to be in that space where you're poised in the void, not knowing who you are and where you're going. Because if there's one thing you can always be sure of, is change. Change always happens. Things always change. And so you will not stay suspended on that single tile. You can kind of keep yourself there for a while if you want to keep resisting it. But you'll be fine. You are. Think of it like a snake shedding its skin, or a butterfly coming out of the chrysalis. You've let these things go for a reason. The reason is to create a better, more joyful, more fulfilling life for yourself, where you honor yourself, respect yourself, and allow yourself to be deserving. So, Simone, let go of the last floor tile.
Was my migrating to Canada with my family and then having to endure living separately with my spouse and then had to do single parenting part of my destiny, life path, or was it my free will?
Can you say that again?
Okay, the question was, I was wondering, was my migrating to Canada with my family and then having to endure living separately from my spouse and then had to do single parenting part of my destiny, life path, or was it my free will?
Okay. I will answer that in a minute. Listeners, hello. I just noticed that we weren't broadcasting for a few minutes there, so you missed the last question. I'm so sorry about that. But we're back with you now, and we're going to answer this question. And I can't remember the name of the lady that Corey said, but...
It was Anna.
Anna. Okay, thank you. So we are going to take a look at Anna's question. And she's asking, she migrated from somewhere else to Canada, became a single parent, and separated from her spouse. And was it her destiny? Was it her free will? Or was it her life path? Well, I would say all of the above, but let's take a look at what's going on with you. Because, of course, it's always your free will. Any choice that you make, it's your free will. Even if you're being controlled by somebody else, you're the one that's got the free will to be allowing yourself to be controlled by somebody else. So everything that you do is your free will. There's no question about that. And is it my life path? Well, yes, because it's the path that you walked in your life. And is it my destiny? Yes, because you made the choices that made it your destiny. So you create your own reality. You create your own reality through your thoughts, through your beliefs, and through your actions. And so, yes, Anna, whatever you've created for yourself, moving away from your homeland, separating yourself from your spouse, and raising kids on your own, that is your creation, ultimately. And, we use this word destiny as though there's and fate, as though there's some outside force dealing the cards that we live. That's not true. You are a co-creator with God. And you have free will. You're the one dealing the cards. So if you look around and you go, well, oh, look at this, I don't like that, why has that happened? Look in the mirror, look at yourself. Look at the thoughts and beliefs and that you've holding in your being. Because you're the one that's created it. So the answer really is yes, yes, and yes. And we do have time for one more question, so let's see what Corey has for us. Hello.
Hello, I got a question from Effie. And Effie would like to know, can you tell me anything about my past life?
Okay, well, that's a good one for the last question of the night. And can I tell you anything about your past life? Well, I think we'll have to choose just one of them because there are many. And there's one that's lighting up for us to talk about, Effie, so that's the one that we will take a look at. And the symbol that I'm seeing that's getting me into the past life is an old-fashioned key and an old-fashioned wooden door. And so let's go inside. And what it looks like is a farmhouse, and it is the building is made of wood. The floor is wood, the walls are wood, but it's a kitchen. It's like a kitchen area. And I'm seeing you in a female body, and you're in the kitchen and you are cooking. And what it actually looks like is, I mean, you're fairly young. It looks as though somebody else used to be in charge of the kitchen, but they have become incapacitated. And you've had to take over all of their responsibilities and duties. And so it's, on the one hand, it's an exciting time for you, and the other hand, it's a daunting time for you. But there's also the feeling of, this is my time. This is my opportunity to show what I can do, to make my contribution. And it looks like, part of it was looking after, a big extended family and group of workers on the farm. So it looks like part of what you were doing is... Well, it looks like you're making butter and you're making cheese and you're making meals and so you're making. It looks like you're making products to sell and you're making stuff to feed people as well. And I'm seeing that you excelled, that you were very orderly, very organized. The kitchen looks spotless. It looks absolutely. Like a factory operation, and so I'm just seeing it was I'm looking at you in this past life at a time when you came into your own. And usually when I do a past life reading, what comes up is something that's very relevant to the present lifetime. And so I feel that right now in the present lifetime is also a time when you are coming into your own. It feels very exciting. It feels like the world is opening up for you. It feels like you're getting the opportunity to show us all what you can do. Let's see what else we can see about this past life. I'm seeing that you had quite healthy boundaries around yourself in the kitchen. I'm seeing that there was a man, and it looks like it might be your father, because it looks like the person who's become incapacitated, it might be your mum. And so I'm seeing, he's coming in to check on you, to check how you're doing, and also trying to interfere a little bit, because he's feeling like, oh, maybe you don't know what you're doing. And so you're asserting your boundaries, because you do know what you're doing. In fact, you've been working with your mum, in this kitchen, learning from her, and also looking at, well, I'd do that a different way when it comes to me being in charge. And so I'm seeing you have to lay down boundaries with him, and you do it. Like, this is my space, this is my domain. You're in charge out there in the farmyard. I'm not going to interfere with you, but I'm in charge here. And I'm seeing, there's a need for the same kind of boundaries in the current life, because it looks like as you are succeeding more and more, you become very attractive, and it looks like other people want a piece of that, and other people want to, put in their 10 cents worth about it. And so, but I'm seeing it's, like I said to the other lady earlier on tonight, you're the one that knows best for you and for your life. And so, assert good boundaries.
Thank you for joining us. You've been listening to another Unlocking Your Truth podcast by Dr. Lesley Phillips. For more information, go to her website at drlesleyphillips.com. That's drlesleyphillips.com, where you can ask questions or send her an email, and there's many free gifts on there for you as well. Come back again.